The hot hatch. Proof that there is a God, and he's our kind of bloke. Just look at him, nestling. It seems a shame to go up and disturb him. Maybe I should just leave him there. Nah, let's get him. Today, we are gonna have fun, a lot of fun, and all in the name of science. Because we are gathered here, all of us, to do awful things to three of the hottest, sexiest little numbers you can buy. At least on our budget. From France and looking hot to trot is the Clio Sport 172, complete with a newly revised face. And then an English rose in naughty underwear, the MG ZR160. Just don't say Rover, it thinks we can't tell. And finally, a touch of the exotic East, the Honda Civic Type R. Stripped bare of frills and fripperies, it's more than ready to get back to basics. Grr, I'm a tiger. And so we brought them out here, where we can be alone together and where they can stretch their legs a bit. The only problem is, I can't decide which one to drive first. These are not cars that we buy for their economy or their prowess in the supermarket car park. So we're going to keep things simple. The winner at the end of the day will be the one that looks the sexiest, goes the best, and doesn't leave us completely broke. The old Renault 5 GT Turbo was no slouch, of course, and their new Clio V6 is, well, sheer lunacy. This, though, is probably a slightly more realistic version of the hot hatch, and it's certainly not short of go. Renault recently tweaked the interior of the Clio, and for this sport version, it was much needed and actually means it feels pretty good. There's quite a sense of occasion in here. It feels quite proper. You are immediately hit, though, by the Clio's big problem, and that is the driving position. It's a bit truck-like. It's not quite right. I don't have quite the right adjustment on the wheel, and that's a shame, because other than that, it's a great hot hatch. There's plenty of power, 172 brake horsepower, the clue is in the name, Clio 172. That's from a 2-litre engine, and there's loads of mid-range urge, so you've always got power. It's only after a while, though, do you start to spot the problem. When we say hot hatch, I expect something raucous and edgy, whereas the Clio, well, it's a very, very supple, fluid ride. It's very comfortable, maybe too comfortable, and the steering, well, it's very quick, but I'm not getting a lot back through the steering wheel. I'm a bit isolated from it. Basically, I think the thing is just a bit too French and sophisticated to be a raucous, badass hot hatch. You might think of Honda as a brand more concerned with fitting pension book holders and pork pie hat brackets on the parcel shelf than with performance. But you'd be wrong, very wrong. Cars like the NSX, the Integra Type R and the Accord Type R bear testament to that. And this, the Civic Type R, is their take on a hot hatch. And they've gone very much for the bare, stripped-out racer feel. Works for me. And straight away, this feels a lot more like a hot hatch. Where the Clio is supple and gentle in the ride, this is harsh and crashy and like a hot hatch of the old school, which I like. There's plenty of power, nearly 196 brake horsepower from a 2-litre engine, and it's fitted with Honda's clever VTEC system, which changes the characteristics. At low revs, it's pretty docile, and to be honest, a little bit flat. At high revs, and I mean high, like 7.5. It's fantastic. The world just goes crazy. It's also much more like an old-fashioned hot hatch in terms of the interior. We've got gripping bucket seats. The driving position is great. I feel really in control when I'm getting a bit of a shift on. And finally, the MG ZR160. And just a few years ago, who'd have thought there'd even be an MG in a hot hatch test? I really, really want to like it in here. I do. I want to like it. I don't like it. I'm sorry. It's just a Rover 25 in here with no walnut, basically. When it comes to the actual drive, though, the important business, well, it's not as powerful as the other two. There's only 160 brake horsepower from a 1.8-litre engine, so we have to forgive it that. But once you're underway, even when you take that into consideration, somehow it's not quite as thrilling as the other two. It is still a hot hatch, though, despite all of that. It still feels sporty and nimble and quick. It's just it is against some pretty stiff competition here, and it just doesn't feel as exciting. so the performance verdict. And in third place, it's the MG. It really isn't the car's fault, and maybe it is a bit unfair. It's down on power compared to the other two, and it just can't cut it in this company. And then it got very, very close, but second was the Clio. It really is very, very close, and the Clio nearly made it to the top slot, but it got knocked down just because of that ride, being perhaps a little bit too soft. And so the #1 drive of our hot hatch trio is the Civic. It is a very tight competition between these two, but the Civic Type R makes it to the top simply because it's the closest to an old-fashioned hot hatch, fast and raucous. And so for the verdict, well, there's got to be a loser, and I'm afraid it is the Rover. Oh, sorry, the MG. I'd love it to have won, but I guess it is the smallest, the least expensive, and the most underpowered of the three, so maybe it always was a little bit unfair, and it did pretty well. Second place goes to the Renault Clio Sport. It is a fantastic little hot hatch. There's loads of mid-range urge from that engine. It's a dynamite drive down country lanes, and it would have won if it wasn't for, in first place, the Honda Civic Type R. Compared to the other two, it is razor sharp. There's huge fun to be had at the top of the rev range thanks to that clever VTEC system. And for a hot hatch, it's actually a very practical, spacious car, making it very much a worthy winner.
So on the road and on paper, the Civic Type R is our three-car winner. It may be the dearest car and the most expensive to insure, but those performance figures speak for themselves. The Clio 172 was a close second, and the MG ZR, whilst it was in third place, with a 0 to 60 time of 7.4 and for only 13.5 grand, that's pretty good performance for not much money.